Hey, RetconRaider here. Today's video is dedicated to the Raiders, the fine folks who help make these videos possible, with special thanks to Revenant, Anerdinwarpaint, Antonio Hernandez, Exsellsior, Lima, Nathan Welch Jr., and Valinrook. Thanks for your support, guys. That said, let's get started. And welcome back to the Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous beta, as we officially wrap up things with Act 1, after just 30 hours and 30 episodes worth of content. All this just to hit the 20% mark, because as I've said before, this is just Act 1 of 5. Essentially, this is just the setup for the actual main storyline. Not quite the 200-hour estimated playtime for Kingmaker, but it's still up there. That said, we do still have a couple of fights, not to mention a fairly hefty chunk of narrative ahead of us, so we're going to jump right into that. And with any luck, we should be officially into Act 2 as of episode 31. I guess that's the loot from the battle in the entrance hall. I will note we are currently about 1,000 pounds over our maximum travel weight, so I will have to do some significant inventory management before we can actually leave. Oh, a single Minotaur. That's cute. Oh, I'm sorry, that is a Dorodnu. My mistake. Well, let's take him down. Critical miss. Not off to the best start, but that's fine. We'll get all those ones out of the way early. Ah, I see. I'm gonna guess damage resistance 10.
Make every strike count.
Nice, nice. So far, so good. And yes, that'll do it. No, let's delay a little. Kaiser. That's what I was afraid of. And that is exactly why I delayed.
Endure this!
Time to share your treasures!
Nice. Blocker. +1 Cold Iron Great Axe. On hit, enemy must save or become prone. Well, that's fun. though the DC is set so low, I'm not even sure it would be viable at this point. Just as well, I suppose, we don't actually have any great weapon wielders. And here we go. Time for the big finale for Act 1. Let me just spot check our party real quick. Yeah, we're good. Exit's locked, of course. That's one big stone, no doubt about it. The city's greatest sight. Before it was tossed here upside down, that is. Room seems clear, so let's have a look. Upon entering the chamber where the vanquished Wardstone resides, the Crusaders could have expected many things. An ambush, deadly spells, or a horde of enemies. But not an empty hall, still and silent, with no Minago or her henchmen, only the obelisk and glimmers of light dancing on the dirty floor. But then again, all is not as placid as it seems. Creed Ironfang once again hears the seething choir. This time the voices sound louder, more insistent. One step, another, and suddenly Creed sees the Wardstone, not as it was a moment ago, but somehow completely different. It is no monolith emanating light. It is a cage made of pure energy. The place where Discari struck looks like a festering wound, from which tendrils of dirty red and purple darkness creep throughout the entire artifact. And there, inside, two hosts of flaming warriors are locked in battle. One is light, the other blood red. But they are all waiting. For what? The light warriors speak of duty, service, and sacrifices made. Their words reveal the truth of the Wardstones. Each one contains a host of angels, volunteers from heaven who committed to this indefinite imprisonment in order to guard mortal kind from the demonic threat. They make no complaint. They ask no easing of their burden. If the goddess and her herald offered them the same choice again, they would consider it the ultimate honor to sacrifice their freedom for the cause. The angels know Discari's evil plan. When the last of the light warriors falls, the Wardstone will become a deadly explosive that will destroy everything around it, and the other obelisks in the chain will meet the same fate. The light warriors pray for help. They plead for someone to strike down their fallen brethren. Those who succumb to the demonic corruption are already beyond salvation. But if they are stopped, it will allow the Wardstone to heal and the light host to continue its duty. The crystal chisel discovered in the ruins of Canabris is the ideal weapon for this task. It will cut out the corruption, along with those who have succumbed to it, and restore the Wardstone's full power. The eyes of the Aeon, until now slumbering peacefully in the hero's soul, awaken. They urge the hero to look upon the Wardstone through them. The Aeon's eyes wish to see. The Red Warriors speak of pain and lies and disillusionment. Their words reveal the truth of the Wardstones. The barrier surrounding the world wound is built on the bondage and suffering of countless angels. Every injury dealt to the Wardstones, these angels experience as physical agony. The pain is driving them insane. Deceived by the hollow platitudes about duty and service, they suffer torment day after day for the sake of ungrateful mortals who do not even know their names. Enough. The Red Warriors know that their blades, now turned against their former brethren, hasten the triumph of Discari and his servants. Once the Wardstone has been wholly conquered by corruption, it will become a deadly weapon under the demon's control. Some of the obelisk's prisoners beg for freedom, while others pray only for death. But they all agree that this existence is unendurable. The crystal chisel discovered in the ruins of Canabris is the perfect weapon for a massacre. It cannot force open the door for those who wish to escape. but it can destroy the Wardstone along with all its prisoners, willing and unwilling. None will be able to claim victory, but all will be gifted a merciful death that will end their suffering once and for all. Oh my. The eyes of the Aeon pierce through the essence, matter, and time, and reveal the truth of the Wardstones. The stones are just as much a perversion as the world wound itself. The demons are not of this plane, but this did not give Iomedae and her herald license to disrupt the balance still further, by imprisoning untold numbers of angels in stone. A crime committed in the name of good does not offset those committed in the name of evil. It only multiplies the harm done to the cosmic order. There it is, the fate of two angelic hosts, faithful and fallen, and the fate of Canabris, perhaps even all Mendev, now rest in the hero's hands. How will he proceed? Whatever this crystal chisel may be, its power is great indeed. It can destroy the stone along with all its inhabitants, or it can mend it by killing the angel defectors within. What it cannot do, alas, is free those who wish to escape and keep the stone intact for those who wish to remain. The Aeon's eyes perceive a solution to the goddess's tinkering, one that will cost no lives. One strike with the crystal chisel at the perfect point, and the stone's magic will be destroyed, and all the angels will go to their rightful place, to heaven or to the planes of chaos and evil. The remnants of the Aeon's powers draws all that is left of the Aeon's existence to the hero, urging him to put things right. But somewhere deep within the hero's soul, the familiar ire seethes, endless rage, unbridled hatred. What will happen if it is unleashed here at the stone? And this, of course, is our first real mythic decision. We've dabbled a bit before, such as with how we approach Savvamelech, but generally speaking, that's stuff that, while it will have consequences, won't directly impact our mythic growth. This, however, will not necessarily shape how our characters' mythic powers will develop long-term, but it will influence them, and it may even close off some paths depending on which option we choose. From what I understand, it is actually fairly forgiving up until the end of Act 2, at which point the player will have to finalize their mythic path. Even then, though, I believe you can still abandon your path and follow an unaligned legendary hero path if the player ultimately decides they don't like the path they chose. There are also a couple of late-game hidden paths, stretch goals from the original Kickstarter campaign, the Gold Dragon and the Swarm That Walks. But those require the player to jump through special hoops and unlock certain special story events. In this case, we're going to keep it relatively simple. Obviously, Creed is good aligned, we're leaning chaotic, and we've already taken steps towards establishing the Azada mythic path. And while Azada is not an option here, I think that good aligned one is probably more or less in the right wheelhouse. We'll go ahead and pick that one and see what happens. Creed Ironfang addresses the furious Red Warriors, not in words, but in his intentions and aspirations. The torment-wearied angels see compassion in him, and also a promise of rest. One day, the demons will be driven back. One day, the world wound will vanish like a nightmare, chased away by the spring dawn. One day, the sky above Canabris will once again gleam a dazzling blue. When that day comes, the Wardstone will no longer be needed, and the Angel's Watch will be at an end. Overcome by this vision, the Red Warriors drop their weapons. With bowed heads, they say words of farewell and fall into a deep sleep, one that will not be broken until the day this promise is fulfilled, and they regain their freedom. The injury inflicted by Discari still gleams scarlet within the Wardstone, but the spread of corruption has been halted. The obelisk fills with vital, healing light. The Crusaders succeeded. The Angels' battle within the Wardstone has ended, and the threat to the entire chain of stones has been eliminated. Of course, this has won no guarantees of safety for the future. What happened here can happen again. The Mendevians can no longer rely on Iomede's gift as once they did. But the danger has passed. For now. Unable to bear such a flagrant violation of the laws of reality, the magical eyes of the Aeon fade away for good. And that would be our short-term consequence. We've lost access to the Aeon path.
Look at them, Suture. They're rejoicing like children. The storm is coming and none of them sees it.
Shall we add to their festivities, my lady? How about a little lightning to burn their flesh?
Oh no, Suture. We'll leave such frolics to Discari's little gnats. We are here for something else. Something I have greatly anticipated for a long, long time.
The blisteringly vivid memory releases you, and you return from the depths of the past to the present. You feel a fresh breeze on your face. The energy expelled from the Wardstone has blown the roof off the Grey Garrison. The Wardstone's energy suffuses you, and through you flows into your allies.
Oh, what is it? It tickles.
What are you doing here? How? Ah, I see. Tricks from your pathetic goddess. So even Iomade will resort to dirty tricks when you have her cornered. Don't celebrate yet, mortal. There's no one to hide you from me now.
How did Banago get here? She doesn't rush into the chamber. She has been here the whole time. But some unknown spell has stopped you and your enemies from seeing each other. Interesting.
Look, you're already wounded. Pathetic mortal. I'll have no trouble finishing you off now. You'll die anyway.
Looking down, you notice that the wound on your chest is opened up again and is bleeding as if you were hit by a sword. But there is no pain. All you feel is power filling you. Right before your eyes, the edges of the wound start to join and heal until it closes fully. Manago's face twists in frustration. The demoness looks formidable with her entourage around her, but her threats ring hollow to you now. You look at her and feel like a titan looking at an ant. Overwhelming, all-conquering power fills you. What, that little demoness? Those irritating hordes of the abyss? The gods themselves are your only equals now. Crusaders never surrender. I will vanquish evil.
In Iomede's name, we will cast you back into the abyss!
What are you babbling about? You can't possibly still have any hope of victory, you doomed little cockroach. Your pathetic crusades are the laughingstock of the abyss.
Demons laugh a lot, but is it because they're happy? Truth is, I think you're very sad, and you laugh to forget about your sadness.
Your goddess sent you to die. You think that's a victory? All you've done is postpone the deaths of all the other mortals. And not even for very long. But your wait for death is over. You won't see what I'm going to do to your little friends, because I'm going to kill you right now.
And we're fighting. Against what looks to be a pretty formidable array of foes, too. Though we do also seem to have a nice assortment of new buffs. Courtesy of the Wardstone, I assume. Oh, well, that, yes. It would appear that they are very potent buffs, so we might not be in trouble here after all. So it turns out the blessings of Iomedae might be a bit too potent, because I'm fairly certain we just killed our wizard friend. Sorry, still getting used to the god power. Okay, that one's not on me. Let's try to avoid any more friendly fire if possible. Nice. Wow. Hey, look who decided to actually join the fight this time. That is a terrible mistake. Careful. Not careful enough. Sorry. He's probably fine.
Distract them from me.
How can I even do this without hitting this guy? Lan.
How are you doing that? Where is your power coming from?
All traces of Monago's bravado have disappeared, and now her voice trembles with panic.
Monago! To me!
Staunton, my darling! I knew you'd come back for me.
Shut it! Get over here now. Get behind me. If you want to finish her off, you'll have to step over my dead body first. Killing me won't be a challenge, I know. But I can last long enough to give her time to escape.
The dwarf turns his hard eyes on you. Staunton, don't do this.
Don't do it? And why not?
Oh, man. You still have a chance to redeem yourself.
Staunton, it's the truth. The Crusaders of Canabras have treated you like dirt. But we would never do that to you. We are your friends.
Shut up! I've been listening to fairy tales about redemption for 70 years! Enough! Not another word!
Staunton clenches his fist. What did you promise for your betrayal? Dresden? You must know that's a lie.
She's already given me a lot more than all you Crusaders ever did. Compassion, understanding. kind words. So what if it's a lie? I want to believe her lies. I've had it up to here with yours. Your lies about forgiveness and redemption.
You're hurting yourself, just so she can hurt you even worse later. And all that so you can feel hurt until the day you die. You're awfully silly.
I know, girl, but it's too late for me to learn any different. When I die, pour one out for the old fool. Enough talking. Monago, cast your spells and get out of here. I'll hold him off. Quickly, before I change my mind.
No, my sweet, I won't abandon you. We'll leave this place together, and we'll go where we can be happy.
Go. Let me finally. God damn it all! Let's go!
Staunton clenches his teeth, swallowing the rest of his words. Panting, he looks between Monago and you, and back again. At last, the dwarf nods. The demon and the traitor vanish in a magical haze. You feel the energy thrumming through your body and soul start to fade. It doesn't leave you, it hides somewhere deep down, leaving behind a small amount of incredible energy, as well as the understanding that you will one day master that inconceivably huge power. And thus we get our first taste of mythic power. Not too shabby. Oh, hey, and look, one of our tiefling buddies came back to life. Antsy tiefling. Though sadly our wizard friends are still very dead. Poor guys, if only there was some way we could have saved them. Alas, the demons were simply too fast and too furious for mere mortals to stand against. At least that's the way I'll tell it. Anyway, I believe we have one more scene to round the act out with, but we need to assign these powers, and I believe we're now like 1,200 pounds overloaded. So let's hit the pause button real quick. I'll get our inventory in order and figure out which powers we're going to run with, and we will be right back. And we are back. Our inventory's been thinned and our options explored. Let's go ahead and get these new powers set, and then we will jump into the final scene. Act 2 awaits. Now, as I said before, they don't really lock you into a path until you hit the end of Act 2. So right now we're really just laying the groundwork to build on with future Mythic ranks. At rank 1, we can only pick Mythic Hero, which makes you a bit tougher and gives you your first couple of minor mythic abilities. You can see other paths, but you can't actually choose them just yet. That's mostly just to give the player a heads up for which ones they still qualify for. For example, you'll notice here that we do not have the Aeon path listed. Oddly, despite the fact that I'm fairly certain we permanently blocked ourselves from following that path, we can still take the first rank of the Aeon power tree, but I believe we'd have to switch off once we got to rank 3. We're basically just dipping our toe in the power pools right now and seeing which one we like. And in our case, of course, as I said, we're going to run with the Azada path, Instrument of Freedom, which in this case will grant Creed a special ranged attack which can damage foes, or more notably, can be used to buff allies, granting them significant damage boosts for a short period of time. I feel like that's in keeping with the whole mobile support tank thing we're going for. After that, we get to choose from a slightly more extensive list of mythic abilities. We'll get one of these every odd-numbered mythic rank, so 5 in total, and then every even-numbered mythic rank will pick up a mythic feat instead. And much as the names imply, the mythic feats essentially build off of normal feats, whereas the mythic abilities essentially build off basic class or character abilities. You can also trade in mythic feat slots for normal feats or additional mythic abilities, so there is some decent flexibility there. And then once you also hit Mythic Rank 3 and lock in your official mythic path, you'll also start gaining special path-specific abilities with each additional rank. You won't really get to explore that stuff until you hit Act 3. There's a lot of good options here, but in our case, because Creed is an Azada-themed mobile support tank, I've earmarked a couple of potentially interesting ones. Inspirational Leader, Mythic Charge, Leading Strike. But I think we're going to need to start with Mythical Beast. As we saw throughout Act 1, the Smilers are already having a hard time with a lot of the enemies we're encountering, but this should really help with that. That's really a no-brainer. Next we've got Seela, who you'll notice has a few Paladin-specific options. But just like Creed, we're steering her towards a mounted build, so once again we're going to grab Mythical Beast. No sense in giving it to Kaiser, but not to Layla. After that, we've got Waljif, and this is where things start getting a bit more interesting, because there are a lot of abilities he could really benefit from here, and eventually we're going to want several of them. Archmage Armor, Abundant Casting, but I think we're going to start him with Enduring Spells, which is a bit underwhelming in the short term, but long term it is a prerequisite for greater Enduring Spells, which will allow us to do things like 24-hour shield spells, or 24-hour blur spells, or protection from energy, and so on. One of my least favorite parts of most 3E-based games is buff upkeep, so I find these sorts of bonuses really appealing. In theory, we'd be able to do that by rank 3, rank 2 if we were willing to trade in our first mythic feat. But ultimately, I think with him, if we were in this for the long haul, my goal would be greater enduring spells, abundant casting, and Archmage Armor, plus the mythic 2-weapon fighting feat by the time he hit rank 5, which would be about midway into Act 3. Next we've got Ember, who, much like Waljif, is an arcane caster, so once again, abundant casting and Archmage Armor, both very appealing. Though enduring spells a little less so, because she is primarily an offensive caster. I will say, spell slots aren't a big deal just yet, because we're still leaning pretty heavily on her Slumber Hex, and unfortunately there are no options that would boost the potency of her hexes. So instead, I am thinking we'll go with Ascendant Element, with Fire as our choice. The game kind of steers you towards making her into a fire mage anyway, and she gets a bunch of free fire spells, so this way we can actually get some use out of them, since otherwise the average enemy, the demons and whatnot, would be extraordinarily resistant to those sorts of spells. In fact, if we were running with this campaign long term, I might even consider picking up Ascendant Element Cold later down the line. Plus, of course, Archmage Armor, Abundant Casting, and Mythic Spell Penetration. Then we have Darren, and this one is actually our easiest choice by far. He will immediately take Boundless Healing. That not only makes his cure spells stronger, but it also grants them all short range, which for someone like him is actually really important because he's staggered for the first round or two every combat. Which finally brings us to Lan. And I will say, this is the one that I actually had the hardest time settling on, because although there are several abilities here that he could benefit from, including 5 range-specific ones, none of them really felt like they were indispensable, at least not at rank 1. A lot of them grow with your mythic rank, so they're a bit underwhelming at the moment. Normally I'd lean towards accuracy boosts, because obviously damage doesn't matter if you can't land a hit, But I'm not really crazy about how circumstantial these two are. So I think it really comes down to a toss-up of either expose weakness or distracting shots. Distracting shots being kind of a reverse accuracy boost. But for the sake of simplicity, I suppose we'll just go for the damage boost. We'll grab expose vulnerability. We'll grab distracting shots at rank 3, if we get that far. And there we go. Mythic abilities set. Though, as usual, I have set a hard save, so feel free to leave feedback if you would recommend a different choice. We're all set as far as our inventory is concerned, so let us proceed.
Make way. Warrior Queen coming through with a round for the heroes. Whoa, the heart is packed. And you considered nixing this little shindig, Beth?
When Anevia reaches the long table your party is gathered around, she heavily flops onto the bench and hands out the tankards of beer.
I did consider it, and I am still considering it. It hasn't even been a week since the last demon was booted out of Canabras. And we really should be in a period of mourning for all the city's fallen. But the people deserve to celebrate. And he deserves to be honored for saving the city and possibly all of Mendov.
We did it together.
But someone did more than the rest of us. Don't deny your achievements. There'll always be plenty of miserable folk only too happy to tear you down.
According to the Watch reports, there has been no demon activity whatsoever outside Canabras. I get the feeling the fiends are as shocked by what happened as we are. What happened in the garrison, what you did, it was a miracle. I truly believe that the gods remembered us and decided to intervene.
Irabeth rubs her forehead pensively.
Beth, come on, you agreed. No serious business today.
All right, I'm done. No more. Who would have thought we'd be celebrating a successful attack on the Grey Garrison, our own fortress, and that we'd blow the roof off the place?
It's simply unforgivable.
Comes the cheerful voice of someone sitting at the far corner of the table.
While we're on the topic of the roof, there's already a rumor going around that you have been blessed by Iomedae herself, and it was her power granted to you that destroyed the garrison's walls and roof. And it turns out the people want a little piece of that blessing for themselves. The townsfolk are gathering chunks of the garrison's rubble as souvenirs and talismans, and I'm sure they'll hit the black market soon enough. Oh, yeah. Here, read on this for me. For good luck.
Anevia pulls a piece of gray stone from her pocket. Sure. We need all the luck we can get.
Nice. I'll put it on display at home. Or maybe I'll make a hole in it and wear it as a pendant.
Nevi! What are you on about now?
Irabeth mutters.
What do you mean? Do you see many people at this table who've been personally blessed by Iomedae herself?
Well, a couple perhaps,
says the same mirthful voice that joined in before.
Iomedae's blessings are not conveyed through stones, and as public officials, we really shouldn't.
Irabeth looks to the end of the table where the voice originated, and her eyes widen as her words trail off.
I feel a little chastened after what you said about public officials, but I myself have acquired a few pieces of stone and also wish to ask our hero to breathe on them for good luck. So, what now? Are you going to toss me out of this fine establishment?
The woman dressed in unshowy finery raises her eyebrows.
Your Majesty.
Yes, it is I. I made the journey here to deduct the cost of repairing the garrison roof from your salary. We have not been introduced. Galfrey of Mendev.
The woman rises from her seat, approaches you, and holds out her hand. I didn't expect to see the Queen at our table.
I was most keen to see the savior of Canobras with my own eyes. Why not come share your table in a cozy tavern?
The Queen smiles.
Your Majesty, we were just... I'll have them arrange.
Irabeth, finally recovering from the shock, bolts to her feet.
Calm yourself, Commander. I deliberately came here without any fanfare because I did not wish to draw attention away from our honored hero here. My personal guard and the force I brought with me are standing watch outside the city. I ordered all your sentries to stand down. They also deserve a break. Every person who tirelessly fought to save Canobras will enjoy themselves today, and my reinforcements will ensure peace and order.
Will you join our celebration, Your Majesty?
Please, don't Your Majesty me. We are in a tavern, not my court in Nerosian. Address me as you would any comrade in arms. Concerning the celebration, as you can see, I already invited myself. I couldn't pass up the chance to meet the new hero all the Crusaders are talking about, and soon, not just Crusaders.
Well, we could all use some rest.
Because grand new deeds lie ahead, yes?
Your Majesty, my dear cousin.
Count, I admit I was surprised to learn that you valiantly joined the ranks of the city's defenders. Pleasantly surprised.
I live to please you, my queen. My first thought when Discari cruelly robbed us of noble Terendelev and half of Canobras' crusaders in one fell swoop was of you, my queen, and of how these events would weigh heavily on you. No one could have foreseen the demon attack, and we have so successfully held the defense here for 4 heroic crusades.
I'm going to drown him in the nearest well this very night.
Irabeth mutters.
I value your dedication and your eloquence. I hope you will continue to aid our soldiers.
The Queen gives him a genuine smile.
Not a chance. You know that I am not made for the front lines. Excellent bash, but alas, I really must go. Important matters to be getting on with. A new shipment of wine from Kionin and 3 beautiful creatures of the same provenance. But I will most assuredly come to say my farewells before your army departs on its campaign, which, wherever it may lead you, will undoubtedly be crowned with victory.
I shall hold you to that, Count. And now allow me to devote some time to the hero of the evening. I did not come here solely to give you this chance to celebrate, but all serious discussions and official announcements can wait until tomorrow. I have big plans for all of you, especially for you. But I want to keep you in suspense for a little while longer, so I shan't say another word. Let us mark this victory. My first toast is to you, the hero of Canobras. Now, what are we drinking?
And thus, Act 1 comes to a close.
The fires of Canobras have died down. Now the army's path leads to the walls of Dresden, a fallen citadel that the Crusaders have been trying in vain to reclaim for 70 years. The new piece on the board might give their efforts some added momentum.
All right, folks, I think this brings us to a pretty natural break point. We're right at the end of Act 1 and right on the cusp of Act 2, which marks the point where we officially take the reins of the 5th Crusade, leave the smoldering city of Canobras behind, and begin our trek across the blighted landscape of Sarkarus. 30 hours for Act 1. And given that, from what I understand, the subsequent acts are all about equally long, that would seem to imply that the game is up to 150 hours long. Not too shabby. Anyway, that said, we're going to hit the pause button for now, but we will pick up here next time, as we take our first gander at the 5th Crusade proper, or at least the beta version of it. This is, after all, still just a beta. See you then. Oh, and remember, although I do love playing Pathfinder, Wrath of the Righteous, you can find out more about the game by visiting the official website, the official social media feeds, or the official store pages. And if you'd like to help support the channel, then feel free to push any of the buttons that do the things, or maybe even check out the Patreon. Links are in the description.
Enough! Not another word!